That's not exactly it, but go on. Please continue.
You say Docker doesn't work.
I have on occasion said that Docker doesn't work.
Oh, okay, we're going back now. So Docker on occasion doesn't work. Certainly there's a lot of hype around it. So hopefully I do get some credibility because I'm embedded with developers. I try and help startups. I try and learn from them. Our business model is such that we're allowed to, although I make money from vendors, people keep me honest are developers. You know, using the wrong word, female rather than women, stuff like that. Fun plausible solutions, great little company, they do some good data work for their clients. It's basically a couple of men. Sam and Ben, they're really lovely. They put a lot into communities, and yes, lovely chap. Sam Phippen. He's got some reckons, and he's going to tell us about them now. So, Sam Phippen.
Thanks, James. Before I get too far into this, this talk is quite visual. There are some videos and some pictures of robots. So
Cuddle up, folks.
if you can't see all of this, you might want to squeeze in, maybe.
Go on.
It's up to you to
get some
decide.
sidelines going. Good idea. Should I ramble some more?
No.
No, you've had enough. You're worried about what I might say about you.
Always.
Always. Juggling with chainsaws.
Can I begin?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to start my
I
talk?
thought you wanted the people to move.
I think they're done moving. All right, let's do this. Cool. What imagination does is it allows us to conceive of delightful future possibilities, pick the most amazing one, and pull the present forward to meet it. In the future, a whole new generation of artists will be writing genomes with the fluency that Blake and Byron wrote verses. What is great in humanity, said Nietzsche, is that we are a bridge and not an end. It's a cold April morning. Around 500 to 16 to 18-year-olds in full-time education have been summoned to the University of Southampton Students' Union to take part in a robotics competition that they've been working for the past 6 months. It's been a long process, and they're nearly at the end. This weekend will decide who wins. As they walk into the building, they look to their left and their right, and they see a number of different robots from the teams they're competing against. Some of the robots look incredibly well engineered and extremely robust, and they're not sure they're going to be able to beat them. And some of the robots are a little bit more flimsy and a little bit more cardboard, and a lot of the teams think they stand a really good chance. As they get settled and prepare to work with the remaining hours they have before the competition begins, they go further into the building, where they find standing there the robotics arena that up until this point they've only seen described in diagrams. Standing there with all of the accoutrements, they're reminded of the rules one last time, and then everything gets settled, and with that, they go to work. The robots begin competing against each other, moving around and manipulating the environment in which they've been placed. The teams play games against each other simultaneously, which means their robots have to be able to react to the other robots in the arena. As the day goes on and we begin to enter the knockout phase of our competition, the pool is looking pretty strong. It's not clear who's going to win. And as we get to the final rounds, it's still not clear. And eventually, we get to the final match of our competition, and it ends in a 3-way tie. Now, at this point, we could just award points to the robots based on which we think are best, as you might do in a boxing match, but that didn't seem like a suitable conclusion for the competition as it stood. So we decided to run a 3-way tiebreaker match, and that match itself looked like it was going to end in a tie until the last 30 seconds, when this happened. The atmosphere in the room was absolutely electric after that happened. Even the teams that were participating against this robot were cheering for it, simply because we'd gotten down to the last couple of seconds, and it pipped that other team to the post. We were all so surprised by that result, and it was amazing to see everyone sort of so enthralled with what the robots had been doing. To back up a little, I'd like to tell you what I'm actually talking about. It's a robotics competition run here in the UK and also wider in Europe called Student Robotics. Student Robotics explicitly targets sixth formers, 16 to 18-year-olds, for those of you who aren't British in the room, and with one mission. And that mission is to have them build a robot for this competition in order to teach them a bunch of stuff about engineering and hopefully get them really, really excited to go on and do engineering in their future careers. We're a charity, and we've been running this competition for 9 years now. And every year, we get this incredible range of robots. We get these teams competing who are super passionate. And it's one of the most fun things I do on a day-to-day basis. The team that won that year is this team, which is actually from Munich. And this was the first time we'd ever had a team not from the UK win. And we were very excited because it was a sort of inflective growth point for our competition. The kids we work with are all also doing a full A-level course load, and so I think it's amazing that they can find the time to take out of this to actually go away and build a robot. But I'd certainly be lying to you if I said this was the average 16-year-old. Like, these are the kids who are already kind of interested in science or technology and want to have a sort of creative outlet with which to do something with. So for a lot of them, they've never, ever had to build anything before, work with raw materials, buy motors and assemble a robot, and that goes about as well as you might imagine. The first time you give any 16-year-old a power drill, their first instinct is to destroy everything, and I've certainly seen physics teachers run in horror across a classroom to stop pieces of lab equipment being destroyed. There are no remote controls in student robotics. The robots are programmed in Python by the kids themselves. And so in this way, we're not just teaching them electronics and how to build stuff, we're also teaching them how to write code. In the video and a number of the pictures, you saw those markers placed throughout the arena. And this is how the robot knows what's in the environment. We don't expect the kids to build a marker decoding library. We provide that to them. But they then use that with the webcams we provide in order to build a robot which can understand its environment. They have to provide the strategy, how the robot plays, and how they're going to win the game. The robots typically end up looking something a little bit like this, a cube of wood or MDF with a webcam and a mechanism on them for manipulating the environment. I wanted to highlight this robot in particular because it was a little bit shonky, but in a way that got everyone really excited. So this robot has a mechanism which will grab a cube, lift it, and raise it to exactly 90 degrees. And the problem with 90 degrees is it's the perfect angle for that cube to fall either forwards or backwards, essentially at random. If it falls forwards, the robot goes, there's another cube there, and picks it up again, and just gets stuck in a loop. And when it goes into the back, it scores a point. And so what you would have is this robot, in futility, trying to grab a token and failing 5 or 6 times in a row, and then eventually managing it. And when that happened, the team that built this robot was so ecstatic, they just couldn't believe it. They would cheer out. It was just kind of amazing to watch. So this is a conference about the Internet of Things, and we've certainly heard some amazing stuff about the future of putting chips in everything, or maybe not everything, and how we're going to embed intelligence and the internet into everyday life. And I think, to some degree, that's an admirable goal, and we can discuss the finer points of that over a drink, I guess. But to me, the current set of people working on this problem is not enough. And I constantly ask myself, how can we bring the next generation of engineers in? How can we get them excited to build and work with technology and make incredible new things? And unfortunately, like, the current school system as it stands is absolutely not set up to deal with this. The school system really doesn't give you a creative vacuum with which to fill. And that's what you need in order to become, I think, a really good engineer. And so one of the sort of objectives of student robotics is to instill a sense of wonder into the next generation and help them learn and become incredible engineers. I think our competition is really well configured to do this. One of the reasons is that we give them the end goal, the game their robot has to perform in, but none of the actual steps along the way. We give them a sort of starting position and an end position, and then that space is entirely theirs to fill as they want. And I think if we had more challenges like this, more things for the kids, we might end up building a better generation of creators and engineers, or whatever you want to call them. So, like, I've learned an awful lot while running this competition, but one of the biggest things is that putting people in situations where it's okay to make mistakes is a great way to teach them. If you think about like a rote exam, anytime you make a mistake, that's kind of a failure, right? And you should feel bad about it. But that's really not how the technology industry works. I think we love to celebrate our mistakes because we see them as an opportunity to learn. Apparently that guy agrees with me. Yeah. And so if we do this in our robotics competition, it gives them a basis to understand that their mistakes are okay, as long as they learn and iterate and improve from there on. We see a really wide range of robots in our competition. And basically, all of the more creative ones are done by teams that really, really care about the competition and really want to win. So you might be able to see in this picture that this robot is much, much smaller than the other one next to it. And this robot was actually one of the smallest ones in that year's competition. And the reason it was able to do this is the team came up with a genius vacuum system for lifting up and manipulating the cubes in the arena. None of the other teams had thought of this, and so they had a smaller, more agile, faster robot. And that sort of creative outside-the-box thinking, combined with the actual ability to build what they were thinking of, gave them a sort of competitive edge. But the sort of passion and creativity doesn't stop there. We often see teams build robots with extra features for no score-giving reason. Like the time a team built a Wall-E robot. Like, we don't give out points for building a robot that looks like a cute Pixar creation. That would be ridiculous. But this team did it anyway. And I like to think that it's because upon building their robot, they couldn't help but instill it with a sense of personality, because to them, it was their creation and they wanted to love it and breathe life into it and have a great time. The same can be seen in the Thunderbird robot, or the My Little Pony robot, or my all-time favorite student robotics robot ever, the stuffed cuddly lion robot. What this team did is they got a stuffed cuddly lion, put the fur of it around the outside of their robot, then ripped the head off, mounted the head on a servo, and put the servo on the top of the robot, which meant the head could turn entirely independently of the robot. And so what would happen is it would move across the arena, turn to stare at you, keep moving in a different direction, in a manner that I can only describe as incredibly creepy, but really awesome at the same time. Future-struck is an adjective which describes someone who, upon learning the incredible power of technology, cannot help but be inspired to create something. I think over the past 2 days, we've heard from a lot of people who could be described as future-struck. I certainly know I can, and I certainly know a number of people in this room can as well. So at the start of this presentation, I showed you this picture, which is a picture of the pillars of creation, a star forge in deep space taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. The Hubble telescope is a semi-autonomous system in orbit which lets us see into far deep space. I also want to show you this picture, which is a picture of one of the infamous sensors at the Large Hadron Collider, which is also a semi-autonomous system, just that one's buried deep underground. Both of these systems have real-time processing requirements and an internet connectivity requirement and a bunch of other stuff. They have to be able to get information out of them and operate under extremely weird conditions. I like to think of these two as the big end goal of our competition, because the robots we're having the kids build don't have such different engineering constraints. They have to be real-time systems. They have to react to other robots smashing into them, and a bunch of other scenarios beyond. And I like to think about the engineers that were building these systems when they were 16 to 18. I don't think they were busy studying their homework and doing rote exam answers. I would like to think they were in their sheds, tinkering, learning to program their BBC micros, learning to build and create a better world for all of us. What imagination does is it allows us to conceive of delightful future possibilities, pick the most amazing one, and pull the present forward to meet it. Thanks.
You overran.
14 minutes, asshole!